March.
I'd like to welcome everybody here this evening on behalf of the men and women of the Grand Rapids Fire Department and the City of Grand Rapids for the 22nd annual Silent Parade. I'm going to ask Captain Matt Keisch if he could please come up and do the invocation, and then we will start with our program. All right.
Captain for a day. Right. Not as tall as the chief. All right. Today's invocation today comes from John chapter 13. And before we can understand how that applies to us tonight, you kind of have to know the context a little bit. This comes as the Last Supper, the night before Jesus died, before he was handed over on our behalf for all of our sins. And his name actually is Emmanuel, God with us. And knowing the next day that the cross was coming and that he was going to his death, he did something that would forever be remembered as something called servant leadership. And that is how we remember him in a lot of ways, and that's how we can apply this tonight. So in some other accounts, we actually had his disciples during the meal arguing about who was the best disciple. And so if you'll allow me, just real quick, John 13. Just a couple verses. It says, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, he rose from the supper. He took off his outer garments and took a towel and tied it around his waist. And then he poured water into a basin, began to wash the disciples' feet, and he wiped them with a towel that was around his waist. How in the world does that apply to us today as firefighters and the people that we're remembering today? A foot washer was the job of the lowest servant in the house. And we're talking about the King of Kings. And if you remember, the disciples were just talking about who was the greatest. And they made it through the entire meal with dirty feet, because in that culture, you sat on the floor next to each other's feet and you ate your food. So nobody had gotten their feet washed yet, so they were sitting next to their dirty, stinky feet all night. And what Jesus did was he said, okay, I'll do it. He got up, he went all in, he literally rolled up his sleeves, and he said, I'm going to do this. He got the basin himself. Nobody helped him. He just did it himself. And he washed everybody's dirty, stinky feet. And as firefighters, we have chosen to insert ourselves into the dirtiness and the stinkiness of other people's lives. And whether we realize it or not, whether we're doing CPR on some questionable floor, whether we're pulling up an elderly person's pants because they're stuck on the toilet, whether we're showing a young family, the fire engine after we've done 12 runs already, or just simply placing our lives in harm's way for the sake of others, we're doing what Jesus did, and we're doing that servant leadership. We're putting ourselves in a place that many people wouldn't normally want to do, and we're doing that. And tonight we remember those who have gone before us, who spent an entire career doing that and showing us the example. And so thank you for being here that we can do that tonight. And so as we pray, just Jesus, thank you very much for showing us your example, and we thank you so much that you've given us the gentlemen and the women who have gone before us to show us what it's like to do this job correctly and in your name. And we thank you for that, Jesus. In your name we pray. Amen.
I'm sorry, that was the Lieutenant Matt Hutter, and I was just reading from the program that I didn't catch the missing Captain Keisch there. But I wanted to say to Lieutenant Hutter, thank you very much for that invocation. We just had our chaplain of around 20 years that was co-chaplain with Father Dennis Morrow retire at our last promotion ceremony. And Lieutenant Hutter has been kind enough to fill in find a replacement for him, and we appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Chief John Lehman of the Grand Rapids Fire Department, and I'm happy to be here and serving, and happy to that we were able to reschedule this night for the silent parade. The silent parade 22 years ago was brought to the Grand Rapids Fire Department by a firefighter, Mike Uzarski. And Mike Uzarski had seen this silent parade done in the state of Illinois. I believe it was in Downers Grove. And he had witnessed it and thought about what a nice thing it would be to bring here to Grand Rapids. And so that's the history and how it started. Since then, the Grand Rapids Fire Department has hosted the event for the first couple of years, and then it went out to the communities surrounding Grand Rapids and was hosted by a number of departments outside. Since I've been here, I've seen it done in Walker, and seen it done in Cascade. There's a number of other places I know that have hosted it, but I can't tell you all of them. But we're happy that we were able to host it for the last 2 years. And if there's any other department out there that wants to host next year, we'll be very open to keep that tradition alive. I'd like to just kind of understand and reflect on why it is we're here tonight. And it is not a celebration by any means. We're here to remember and reflect on those who have served before us, to pay respect to those that have given the ultimate sacrifice and died in the line of duty, or died while in service of their communities, or died in retirement from service in their communities. I'd like to also talk about the fact that we've got a very dangerous job. And whether or not this job hurts or does worse to us while we're in the organization we're serving, or whether it takes its toll later on in life, the fact is that we become a little bit beat up as a result of doing a job in this career. And sometimes it takes its toll later on in life in retirement. We don't necessarily, we know that we're exposed to things in the line of this job. We know that we have things that impact us stress-wise, mentally, cardiac, health-wise, and as it affects our lungs and our breathing. And so many of these folks that we're honoring tonight potentially had their lives cut a little bit short in service of their community, and we respect and we honor the fact that they gave that sacrifice for us. I'd like to also talk for a second about honoring those people that have paid the price over the last 2 years. So in 2020, 102 firefighters died in the line of duty. 36 of those died from COVID. 72 died from an emergency incident scene. 29 died from heart attacks. 26 died from activities at the fire scene. 25 died from activities at a non-fire scene. 14 died while responding or returning from emergency incidents. 7 died while participating in training accidents. In 2021, there were 135 on-duty firefighter fatalities. 65 were due to COVID. Of the 70 non-COVID deaths, 35 were volunteer firefighters, 27 were career firefighters, and 7 were contractors. The largest share of deaths occurred while firefighters were operating at fires, being 28. Overexertion, stress, and medical issues accounted for more than half of the deaths, 40, including 29 cardiac arrests. 16 firefighters died in vehicle-related accidents, including 10 who died in vehicle crashes and 6 who were struck by vehicles. It is no doubt that we have a very dangerous job. In the last 2 years, from 2021 and including 2022, we lost 3 firefighters in the line of duty from the state of Michigan. Jeffrey A. Brozich from Madison Heights, March 1st of 21. Chief Danny Deo is the father of Ashley Deo, who serves for our organization from Morley, Michigan, died as a result of COVID. David W. McDonald from Peshwabastan, Michigan, died March 17th of 2022. the city of Grand Rapids, we've had 22 line of duty fatalities. Those are listed over here on these lockers. We honor the remembrance of those firefighters that paid that ultimate sacrifice by recognizing them here and also trying to recognize them in other ways. The latest one died in the 1960s. We appreciate and remember all those that went before us, and in the way that we pay our tribute to those individuals is through this ceremony. So now I would like to invite up Captain Matt Keisch to explain the tolling of the bell for the last alarm.
Good evening once again. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. Appreciate being here. So final alarm. Our methods may change, but our goals remain the same as they were in the past. To save lives and to protect property, sometimes at a terrible cost. This is what we do. This is our chosen profession. This is the tradition of the firefighter. The fire service of today is ever changing. It is steeped in tradition, over 200 years old. One such tradition is the sounding of the bell. In the past, as firefighters began their tour of duty, it was a bell that signaled the beginning of that day's shift. Throughout the day and night, each alarm was sounded by a bell, which summoned these brave souls to fight fires and place their life in jeopardy for the good of their fellow citizen. And when the fire was out and the alarm had come to an end, it was a bell that signaled to all completion of that call. When a firefighter had died in the line of duty, paying the supreme sacrifice, it was a mournful toll of the bell that solemnly announced a comrade's passing. We utilize these traditions as symbols, which reflect honor and respect on those who have given so much and have served so well. To symbolize the devotion that these brave souls had for their duty, a special signal of 5 rings, 3 times each, represents the end of our comrades' duties, and that they will be returning home to quarters. And so, to those who have selfishly given their lives for the good of their fellow man, their task completed, their duties well done. To our comrades, their last alarm, they're going home.
I now ask that representatives from the following organizations come up to read the name of the deceased. Alpine Township Fire, Grand Rapids Fire, if you could line up over here, please. Grand Rapids Township Fire, Plainfield Fire, and Wyoming Fire. From Alpine Township Fire, firefighter Adam Guigi.
From Grand Rapids Fire, retired Battalion Chief John DeBlay. Retired Captain Ted Zotko. Retired Firefighter Jack Hutchins. Retired Battalion Chief Richard Morse. Retired EO Bob Carpenter. Retired EO Ken Van Dyke.
From Grand Rapids Township Fire,
Paul Stednick. And from Wyoming Fire, retired firefighter Dick Isles, firefighter Jack Jones.
and from Plainfield Fire.
Retired Captain Ali Ebeling. Retired Lieutenant Paul Carpenter.
Thank you. I would like to remind everybody that as we process, the bagpipers are going to finish us off with Amazing Grace. As we exit here and head to your vehicles, I'd appreciate it if everybody could keep a little bit of space in between each vehicle, about 1 rig space in between each, and please do not stop because otherwise we'll create a little bit of a traffic jam in town. But all you have to do is you don't have to worry about the route. We'll be leading with Chief Norman, and the idea is that we will process up Michigan Avenue past Children's Hospital, Helen DeVos Children's. Once you get past Children's Hospital, keep going at least until you get to college before you break off. But once you get to that point, everybody kind of goes their own way. We thank the bagpipers, we thank the Grand Rapids Honor Guard for their participation. I thank all of you for being here tonight, and thank you very much for being here and remembering those that have paid the tribute to all of us and to the organizations we belong to. Bagpipers from the Grand Rapids Fire Department.